Hi, this is Glenn with Crimson Lotus Tea. I'm going to show you today how to open up compressed tea. I know there's a lot of other videos on YouTube about how to do it, but we've done this many times, and we may have some tips and tricks that you haven't seen before. Technically, this would work for any compressed tea. There's a lot of people that are compressing things that are not puerh these days. Puerh is the traditional tea that is pressed. But realistically, you can press anything. See a lot of compressed white tea, a lot of compressed black teas, and same things that I'll show you today can work on those as well as the traditional puerh. It's a really nice idea to have some sort of a tea tray. This is just something that helps to like hold the cake while you're working on it, and also it kind of has like a little pouring slot kind of thing, so you can pour the leaf like right into your brewing vessel. These work pretty decent if you can find them. We've sold them from time to time, but I don't think we actually have any. Don't think we have any for sale right now. But we'll be going back to China soon, so we'll be able to find some good stuff there. So compressed tea comes in all shapes and sizes. You've got cakes. This is called a bing. Fairly simple, fairly round, fairly traditional. You've got cakes. This is a cake of holy flame. Excuse me, not a cake. This is a brick. It's compressed brick. Shaoguan holy flame. It's a big brick. This is 2 kilos. This is a monster. This is our Bulan Gushu 2.0, 1.0 show puerh, and it's not a traditional thing to have things compressed this heavily. Not this heavily, but this much. This is a lot. I've actually already broken off about 500 grams of this. Then we're also going to show how to open up tuochas. This is a tuocha that I've already opened up a couple times, but it's still got some room on it. I can demonstrate some good techniques for these. These are somewhat tricky. This is a tea ball. Don't bother with this. Just throw it in your gaiwan teapot, brew it up. You try to open this up, and it's gonna hurt you. You're gonna get hurt. These things are too small, too hard to hold. It's really easy to slip, stab yourself. So if you got tea balls, don't bother. Just brew them up. They're generally the right size, anyways. So you have options when you're opening up a cake of compressed tea. Tools. It's nice to have some good handy tools. An ice pick works. A butter knife works. You can get away with a fork and a pinch. You can use what you have. I would highly suggest not using something sharp and not using something that has an edge. You will slip and you will stab yourself. There is a difference in the types of tools that you can get, though. For example, this is a tea knife that I've made myself. This is made out of a Damascus steel. I've hand forged it. Got a small forge and anvil in the garage, and I can work on making some really cool stuff like this. See if we can see it in a close-up here. It's got a really nice texture. This one here has a really nice shape. It has a really nice profile. It very easily slips into the layers of a cake. Of compressed tea. It's not much bigger than your hand, but you really don't want it to be too big. You want something nice and small. You can sit there, you can hold it, you can work it, get in really nice and close. If you're holding something really far out here, it's really easy to slip, very easy to stab yourself. That's another thing. If you are pushing the tea knife into a cake and your hand is on the other side, you will slip and you will stab yourself. It happens all the time. It's happened to me. It happened to me many times. I've learned that the hard way, and a lot of other people have as well. You will eventually stab yourself, so just be careful. Be really careful. This one here has a little bit of a point on it, but it's not too bad. I mean, it's enough to actually break the skin, but there's no edges on this. It isn't sharp. But yeah, it's important. If you are pushing this into a cake of tea, make sure that your hands and fingers are completely out of the way, because it will slip and you will stab yourself. It's another reason why this table like this is actually pretty handy. This actually offers a good surface. So let's start with something simple. This is a very simple cake of tea. This is our hidden song. This is a sheng puerh. It's 200 grams. It's fairly thick because it's been loosely compressed. Loose compression Is generally how we press most of our stuff. Gives it a chance to age a little quicker in the early years, and it's definitely easier to open up. So there's a couple reasons. Two major reasons why you would open up a cake of tea. Either you're opening up enough so that you can have something to drink right now, or you're opening the entire thing to allow it to air out. And that's something that a lot of our customers do as well. In the past, we've sold clay storage jars, and so when people get a new cake of tea, they'll actually break up the entire thing, put it into the storage jar, and let it kind of air out that way. And that's actually not a bad idea. If you're going to be drinking an entire cake of tea in the next month or something, sure, you might as well go ahead and break the whole thing up. It'll actually give it a more uniform experience. Another thing to consider and to keep in mind is that there's different layers of compression in an individual cake. Bricks are pressed the entire same compression all the way throughout, but a cake of tea has very loose areas of compression, has really tight areas of compression, and these will each give a different experience when you steep them. So if you do break up the entire thing, you could pick and choose pieces from the center, which are heavily compressed, and pieces from the outside, which are more loosely compressed, and then a little bit of dust. You could throw it all in there. You'll have a better experience. If you drink all the stuff from the outside, it's going to taste different than the stuff on the inside, because the stuff on the inside has been so much more heavily compressed. This is when they're compressing these, and when we have them compressed, they're wrapped into the loose leaf is wrapped into a cotton sack, and that cotton sack is steamed. Materials actually steam first and then put into the sock. But when they roll up the sock, there's a knot in the sock that gets stuck here, and then when it's pressed down, that's what creates this really heavily compressed thing. So in Chinese, these are called bings, B-E-E-N-G, and the center here is ironically in the Western market called the bing hole. Some people actually prefer drinking the tea in the bing hole. I don't mind it at all. That's generally what's left after we break up a bunch of these and make them into samples and stuff. Got a lot of bing holes and a lot of dust, so that's generally what we end up trying to or having to drink a lot. So when I'm opening up a cake of tea, if I'm going to be leaving it compressed for a while, one thing that's really important to me, just visually, I like how the cake looks. I like a nice big round cake, so I'm going to want to take stuff off from the back. As soon as I start breaking it off the front, that really nice visual is gone. So for a cake like this, something that's much looser, you can actually work in from the edge, because it is really thick. You could even come in right from the top and just kind of get it started. This one here just opens up so easily. You can easily just slide that right into there. Again, if you're pushing towards yourself, you're probably going to stab yourself. So if you're holding it like this, you could hold it in this tray. You could actually kind of like start in here and then just kind of work across. This is where a really a knife that has like a nice width to it is actually really good for getting in there and doing a twisting motion. That actually helps a lot, loosening things up. You'll see how much easier it loosens, helps to pry it out. And you can just take off just what you need. For a loosely compressed cake of tea, see there you go, I slipped right there, but my finger wasn't there, so it's good. For a loosely compressed cake of tea, you really don't have to work. You really don't have to work too hard at it. So it basically kind of opens itself up. You just need to get in between the layers. There aren't really layers per se, but you actually could separate the cake into two if you worked your way all the way around. Yeah. So if it's loose, they open up fairly easily, and it's much easier to actually keep the leaf material intact. And that's something that you want to focus on. You want to try and open up the cake as cleanly as possible. It'll make if the leaves aren't all crushed and broken, it'll actually make the experience better in your cup when you're drinking it. Really heavily compressed teas, it's hard to do that. Things are going to break anyways, so don't really worry about it. Just do what you can do. So let's look at this cake from Changtai. This is our Top of the Clouds. I've also broken this one open a couple times already. So this one is an odd cake. I love Changtai. I adore this cake. I don't entirely know why they pressed things these ways. It's very awkward. Things aren't entirely uniform, and they're not even straight. They're kind of like wobbly. I don't know if that's possible to see that, but it's not a very nice round compression. But these things are pressed tight. This is 250 grams, and it is really, 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 really thin. For a cake like this, coming in from the edge is going to be really, really hard. In fact, you're probably going to slip and you're probably going to break more than you actually get in, unless you have a really sharp knife and can just slide in there. So this comes down to my my favorite trick about starting from the center and working out. I've already started a little bit on this one. You can see you can kind of get in there like that. But for really heavily compressed tea, it is hard to get into to really get into there, because this part is really heavily compressed. So what I like to do is with a fairly sharp knife, and this wouldn't work with like a butter knife. It might work with like an ice pick. I actually start pushing down from the palm. I push down into the cake and then kind of get it to slide in and down. And maybe I can hold it across here. My hands aren't in the way. And once you can kind of get it started in there, you can kind of just wiggle it all the way in and inside. And if you have a little bit that's already open, it's actually pretty easy to start moving across and over to the other side. There you go. You can kind of hold a cake down with your fingers like this and get a little working room underneath it without having to worry about like holding it like this and sliding across and stabbing yourself. So a cake like this, you could get in there, kind of work it up. If you get these cakes just right and you work your way all the way around, you can actually separate them into two. And I know some people recommend that, and some people do it that way. It's not a bad idea. If you're going to break up the whole cake and air it out, you could give that a try. And so this one here, heavily compressed, and actually opens up fairly easily. Let's look at a, sorry about that. This is a Holy Flame. This is a traditional brick. Tibetans drink this daily. My wife's family puts yak butter and salt in it, and they drink just this brick right here every single day. And you can see I've already started working on this one. And that's the rough idea with a brick. Is you want to work along the edge, and you want to work your way around. It's weakest right there in the center. And I'll often work down like this and just hold it with these two fingers, kind of work in a little bit like that until you can just get it in, just a scratch. And then something like this is really easy because it's got all that extra width and stuff, so you can just kind of twist it like that, and these things will open up super easy. If you're going to break it up, it's nice to go all the way around. It's pretty easy to break it into two. Interesting thing about the Shaoguan Holy Flame is they actually have different material on the front and on the back. You can actually notice that it's a much larger leaf, big large leaf on the front, and a cut grade leaf on the back. And so if you want a nice balanced experience, try and get a little bit from both. And when you're steeping it, and then you'll have a uniform experience. So tuochas are the probably the trickiest thing to open. Opened this one already a couple times, like I said. This is a Shaoguan, 100 grams, and pretty typical compression. Shaoguan likes to make things really, 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 really tight, and that's just their thing. They really feel that sets the tea up to be aged for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years. It does make the tuochas sometimes really hard to open up. True story. Shaoguan actually sells commemorative tuochas with a commemorative hammer. It's all in a fancy little custom commemorative box and stuff with gold lining and things like that. And you open it up, and you actually have an actual mallet, and you can use that mallet for cracking open the tuocha. So yeah, even Shaoguan themselves recommends using a hammer to these if you have to. One of the things that makes these a little trickier to open is just the awkward shape. It's really hard to hold it. Everything else kind of sits really nice in there. Something like this kind of like rolls around. You want to attack it from this edge right around here. So if it's possible to get it and hold it, and you may have to like put like a towel or something down that can help with that. You want to, and this also it really helps to be able to hold something really close to the fingertips, right? So for example, this knife right here, I'm only holding it right here, And so if it slips, well, I'm only slipping that far. Whereas if I was holding it here and trying to go in, it'd be very easy to slip. So I just want to break in and just get it started just a little bit, and then start working just a little bit more in there every time until I've got enough to start twisting it around. And there you go. That would actually be enough to take a session off of. You can also work from the top on these, and this actually helps. So you can hold it down like this. You can start on the top and kind of, you're working again right towards that meaty, thick section in there, because it gets really thin right here at the top. So you want to make sure the knife is going into the meaty section, and you just kind of work on it and slide down into it, and then just break a chunk off like that. There you go. Works pretty well once you got those two little techniques down. You open up a few hundred of those, you'll figure out your own tricks. And that's it. Those are the basic shapes. You will occasionally see some other shapes, golden melons, or the things that look like a giant gourd and stuff. Those all have their own little tricks about opening. As long as you stay roughly in the safety parameters, don't be pushing a knife towards you. Hold it down in a different way. You'll be safe, and please be safe. Safety first. Worst case, if something just won't open up, use a hammer. Why not? Even Shagwan recommends it. So there you go. That's it. Just a couple little tips and tricks, ideas that we've gathered over the years on how to open up cakes of compressed tea. We do this daily. All the samples that we sell are all stuff that we've opened and sampled and broken up ourselves. And it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of time. And one thing people don't realize, unless you've opened up like a lot of cakes and bricks of tea, is not all of it is nice, big, pretty leaves. So when we open up a cake of tea and we're making a bunch of samples out of it, we can only only about 90% of that cake is actually sample worthy. The rest is just dust. That dust is fine. I like to drink that dust mixed in with other stuff, but it's not something that we try to put into our tea samples. We like to give people a really good impression of what that tea is, as well as the bing. If you don't use the bing in a sample and you don't use the dust, maybe a cake of tea, you can only use 80% of it for samples. So if you notice that samples are a little bit more expensive, it's usually to try and counteract that loss, and also the time it takes to actually open up a cake. So yeah, this is something we do a lot. So if you have any questions about it, let me know in the comments below. Appreciate you guys checking out our videos, and hopefully some people found this informative. And if you've got some interesting ideas about how you open up a cake of tea, maybe post a video on that and link it to me, and I'll check it out. So thanks for checking out the video. Happy steeping.